Welcome to the stage straight away to the group CEO, Felix Antelo, or President and CEO. Felix, good to meet you. Welcome to London. Grab a seat.
Thank you very much.
Now, Felix, I know you personally are very worldly wise and experienced in this marvelous industry of ours. You've got a big history at LATAM, but more recently coming across the tracks, migrating to low cost, which can be difficult, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's a question that's.
Oh, how was that?
No, yes, no.
Are we still on? Yeah.
Hi. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a question they make me a lot. How's changing from a legacy to a low-cost carrier or to ULCC, such is the case of Viva Air? I think challenges are pretty much the same. I think the main difference is when you're at a LCC or at a ULCC, you have to say no to many things. That's the main difference. You don't have to get tempted by some of the distractions that you might have at a legacy, and you have to be very focused on some of the pillars that we work on every day. So that's, I would say, the main difference. Challenges are still there. Macro environment in South America has been tough over the last couple of years, and it's still tough now. We have a FX, which is not helping. We have the fuel issues. We have issues with taxes. We have airport constraints. Nothing very different from what happens in the rest of the world. So those are, those challenges are still the same, but we do have a great opportunity in South America.
Well, let's just step back a minute about how that came about, because I know we were chatting earlier. Your original backer, and I believe still a shareholder, is the Islandia Group, which is the Ryan family, with, of course, the heritage as known with Ryanair here in Europe. I believe they invested initially in Latin America, in Mexico, but are no longer involved there. They set up Viva Aerobus, now a separate entity. But they moved on to see there were other opportunities in the continent of Latin America.
That's right. The Irlandic Group, as you correctly said, they started out in Mexico with local partners, with Viva Aerobus. The business was a success there, still is. Viva Aerobus is one of the main carriers in the domestic market in Mexico. Irlandia and Declan Ryan, they saw, look, this is a business case to go down south, and there's no real low-cost carrier in South America. That was the thought back then. And they launched Colombia 7 years ago. Mexican partners said, look, we don't want to go south, we want to keep ourselves in Mexico, so they split, they sold the Mexico business, focused in Colombia, and 2 years ago we launched Peru. So now we are our shareholder is Aviation, as you rightly said so.
And you had a new investor.
And we have Cartesian Capital Group, which is a hedge fund based in New York, who knows the region. They've invested many years ago in Gol in Brazil, had a great investment there. They are actually stakeholders main stakeholder in Fly Bondi in Argentina. That's another low cost in Argentina. So that's how our shareholders, they know the region, they know the business, they don't get scared easily, and they are great shareholders to deal with. The main thing I would say here, John, is that we have discussions, with shareholders that know the business, that they have experience. Really they have experience, like you were saying, from Ryanair, here, Tiger in Asia, Allegiant in the US. The Mexican market, which is very similar in some aspects.
We're going to speak to one of the Mexican airlines this afternoon.
Yeah.
But as you say, I mean, maybe it's Irish, maybe it's Ryan family, but they know the toughness of the market and they know how to deal with it. Ryanair has proved itself again and again here. So I guess you, coming on board, you apply those same disciplines you talked about, the things you have to say no to. You can't afford to be complacent about anything.
Absolutely, and I would say, but on the other hand, they understand that we have to adapt the business and the model to South America. I will give a couple of examples here, but for example, and they are very open to that. When I got roughly a year ago in this position in Viva, I said, look, we don't have cash payment methods in Viva, and we need them. In Peru, 50% or plus of the payments are made by cash.
That's still today.
That's still today. And they were not close to say, look, we didn't do that in Ryanair. Don't do that. No, we need cash payment methods. We need to improve our distribution in Peru and in Colombia. We need the OTAs. You can like the OTAs or not. That's not the case here. It's not the discussion. This is not a religious dogma. You know, we need to do what's the best for the business, with one thing in the top of our mind always: keep the lowest unit cost possible. We have a cost advantage over our competitors in South America, which is roughly about 50% per seat, and that's our, you know, that is a religion actually. When I was talking about, you know, don't getting distracted, we have 4 very clear pillars in Viva, which we live and breathe and would die for. Number 1 is cost and productivity. We have this advantage. We need to have a bigger advantage on this, and we are getting there with a new fleet. We can talk about that later. Number 2 is ancillary revenues. Our main advantage versus a legacy is ancillaries. Roughly 22% of our income, of our revenues are ancillaries right now. That's a good figure compared to the rest of the region. Yes, it's not enough when you compare yourself against Spirit, which is in 45, even Mexican carriers, which are roughly about 35 or 40%. So we have a long way to go there. Number 3 is customer experience, which was a little bit neglected in the past at Viva. And when I talk about customer experience, it's not that we're losing our focus. It's 4 or 5 very clear things. Number 1 is OTP. We need to have the best OTP in the market, both in Colombia and Peru, if we want, you know.
I just want to ask you, I understand all those elements, but maybe people here don't know anything even about the market characteristics. I mean, you know, what do Colombians do in terms of travel? What do Peruvians do? The size and scale of these countries, I mean, they're big distances, some difficult airports in terms of hot and high.
Yeah, Colombia is actually, it's a very good question. Colombia is the second biggest domestic market in the region. Yeah. So it's not the biggest country, but Brazil is by far the biggest country. Colombia is not the biggest country, but has the second biggest market, and that's due to some geographical restrictions, a lot of mountains, rough past. You know, regarding some, it was very hard to travel by bus or by car because you could get robbed. So it's a market which is above 30 million passengers per year, which is really huge in South America. Yeah. Peru is roughly half that size, is 15 million passengers. You got complicated airports, as you were saying, a lot of airports with altitude, with
because
high
normally
temperatures.
LCC is, you know, any operational restriction, that airport is off the list. You don't want to go there.
You don't have that luxury in South America.
You've got to go there.
We don't have that many secondary airports. Yeah. I would say we have a couple in Colombia, but not much more than that. So you need to provide, again, a service, you know, of a certain level if you want. And it's a new model. That's I think it's perhaps something obvious here in Europe, in London or in the States. But in South America, one of the main challenges that we find that we have is explaining the model, being very clear, no surprises.
And I know it's not your market, but it is your home country. But I know in Argentina, where, you know, low cost is just beginning to get going this last year, really. I've seen there's been a lot of commentary about, these airlines aren't safe and don't trust them. Maybe some of that comes, perhaps, as you would expect, from unions. But was there that same uncertainty or distrust by the public initially in Colombia and Peru? Because the numbers have built, so even if it was, you got over it. But did you have to work on that?
It's a very good point. In Argentina, that was the case, and you're very right there. And that was, I think, self-inflicted in a way. There were some couple minor incidents. But I would say in the past in Colombia, we've been for 7 years there, but it was the case. Not as the extent that we had in Argentina. But you do have to, you know, to again educate, inform. Yeah. In that regard, we've announced a very good news, which goes directly to this, is that we've just inaugurated a training center, a Viva Air training center in the city of Medellin, where we'll train our crew. We have the most modern simulator for A320 in the world, which we will operate with AFG, with a partner. We'll give that service to other airlines, and that helps, you know, in the sense that saying, look, this is a safe airline. We'll fly this year more than 7 million passengers between Colombia and Peru. So it's something that I would say we've passed that in Colombia and Peru, but it's something that in the region in general we still have to work on.
Keep an eye on. And what about the regulatory environment? I mean, do you face high taxes? Do you have the ability to negotiate with airport on charges? I don't even know if the airports are mainly privately run or they're all typically state run. What about those dynamics?
You have a combination of both. Mainly they are privately run, but a lot of obviously concessions are I would say quite more strict than here in Europe. I would say that's one of the main differences that Irlandia found, for example. It's much harder to negotiate with airports in South America than it is here. We struck a couple of very good deals out in Colombia, mainly with Santa Marta Airport, where we opened our third base, with Barranquilla. It's hard, but we've been able, to have a couple of good, very good partnerships with some of the airports in Colombia. In Peru, we're talking with the two main airports besides Lima, where we could base, our second base in Peru, because Lima is...
I was reading you're having quite a lot of secondary city strategy additions to your network.
Yeah, and that's mainly because you have a constraints. Lima is an airport that will be at full capacity. It is at full capacity and will be over the next couple, I would say 4 to 5 years, until the second runway and the terminal is built. So we do need to grow to secondary cities, and the traffic is there. It's you have to grow it. It's not as easy as well. And we have a huge aircraft. Our A320 carries 188 passengers.
188.
188.
So in a couple more seats than even some other.
Ourselves and Hong Kong Express that are over here are the ones that have that configuration. Typically now is 186. So we have a couple more in the back. So
How do you do that? Squeeze the toilets
that helps. Tinier? That helps to the cost. You want a better place, you pay for it, and there's no problem there.
And you have a big order in for both CEOs and NEOs.
We've already got 14 CEOs in. We are expecting number 15 this November, and as of next year, we're getting the NEOs as of June, July, depending on Airbus. Our friends at Airbus
suffering with some delay challenges there.
Lot of challenges. I won't say the number out of the 14 how many came late, because it's embarrassing. It's been a challenge. It's been a tough conversations with Airbus. But we'll get the NEOs as of next year, and this opens a new phase in the history of Viva. We'll start flying more international. We think that the success that we've had in the domestic market in Colombia and Peru can be translated into the international markets. From Colombia and Peru with the NEOs, you can fly up to New York in the north, Buenos Aires in the south, the whole Brazil area. So the catchment area with the NEOs will be huge.
Felix, we're out of time for now, although, by the way, the tech guys, the timer's not running, so I'm just looking at my mobile phone, so if we could just get that reset for the next session. You can go and take a little rest for about 30 minutes. You're going to join us again kindly for the panel, which is going to be at 12:25. So for now, Felix, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thanks a lot.